Hello everyone, it's Matthew back with another episode of Watty's channel. So the last video we did was the my top 10 favorite Hasbro wrestling figures, and I'm sure there were a lot of surprise victors per se for that competition. You know, I'm pretty sure a lot of people didn't agree with Honky Tonk Man being on a top 10 list, but hey, it's one of my favorites, so he's definitely going to be on that list. Now, going with the top 10 least favorite Hasbro figures, now that was a challenge, you know, even more so than the top 10 favorites. For the simple fact that, you know, just like the LJNs, I mean, I absolutely love all the Hasbro figures. I mean, even the ones that I just want to wring the figures' necks, that drives me nuts. I still really enjoy them. You know, their appearance, you know, the character, you know, who they are as a wrestler or what they were as a wrestler. More to the point. So picking a top 10 list was impossible, but I do have 10 figures here. I got more than 10 figures. There's a couple tag teams here, so I'm pretty sure a lot of people can pretty much figure that out as far as who's going to be part of this top 10 list. But moving on with the very first figure, so coming in as the 10th worst Hasbro figure, I have Jake the Snake Roberts. Now, is there really anything per se that's particularly wrong with this figure? Not really. For no other reason, Jake Roberts is on this list because I really couldn't find anyone else to really throw on here. But, I mean, Jake Roberts, other than Honky Tonk Man, probably has the best accessory of any of the Hasbro figures. I mean, that is just an amazing, you know, snake figure. You know, I love the little snake skin boots he's got. I mean, he's got a good design on his pants. You know, more representable, I guess, as far as body type. The one thing that kind of that put him on this list, I'm not a huge fan of this little arm punching motion that a lot of the Hasbro figures have. You know, I thought maybe put Tito Santana, you know, because El Matador is pretty much the same figure, not just with the whole arm punch, but, you know, with the green pants, and he had like an orange, I don't know if it was orange pants, orange socks or something, but relatively the same figure. I guess I like Tito Santana a little bit better color-wise than Jake's. So he did end up winning out as far as being part of this list as worst figures. Again, not necessarily a horrible play pose per se. You know, Hulk Hogan, another one of those guys. But this, I can't stand that. I just wish they could have done something better. So, surprisingly enough, I have seen videos where, you know, other commentators or whatnot have Jake Roberts as their favorite, but he just does not cut it for the most part for me. Again, I don't hate the figure. I just had to choose someone to be as part of this list, and Jake Roberts, my 10th least favorite figure. So coming in at number 9. Now, this is probably the most hated Hasbro figure of all time. I don't quite hate it as much as a lot of other commentators do. And he actually wasn't going to be a part of my original list. But again, I did have to choose somebody. And so he ended up being the odd man out. Coming at number 9, Ric Flair. But, I mean, maybe I don't feel as great about this figure as, you know, I'm letting on. For the simple fact that, you know, when I try to put championship belts on my figures, both Hasbro's and LJN's, I did have this extra belt. Now, I really had no figures in which to put them on. And so I did make Ric Flair my women's championship. You know, that's kind of an insult, to be honest, because so I never watched women's wrestling before. I was in Iraq a couple months ago, and I started watching some YouTube videos of the women's Royal Rumbles. Now, even if I don't know who anyone is, men or female Royal It's one of those things I thoroughly enjoy. But after, I think the first one I watched was the 2019 Women's Royal Rumble, and then I think I watched 2020, then back to 2018, the first one, and I think I saw 2021 as well recently. Obviously, haven't seen 22 yet. But what that Royal Rumble did tell me is the women wrestlers are the true essence of athletes, because after watching one single Royal Rumble, Women's Royal Rumble, and just absolutely being thrown away by their technique, it just seems like no matter how big they are, height wise, weight wise, it just seems like all the women are, Taekwondo masters. It was just absolutely remarkable. Just a lot of fun to watch the wrestling and, the athleticism. And then you turn over to the male Royal Rumbles, and it's just basic punching and kicking. It's just so boring. And you take like a 1992 Royal Rumble, when you've got the biggest names on the planet and participating in one matchup, and it was just so thoroughly enjoyable. And then you watch today's Royal Rumbles, and you just want to just like throw yourself off a building just so you don't have to watch it. They're just that bad. But I was really super impressed with the Women's Royal Rumbles, and actually have become a huge fan of quite a number of the wrestlers now. I don't know. I think I like Nikki Cross. I just like the way that she comes in all crazy, and I just really enjoy her. And I hate that when she's thrown out, because you really lose that fire and that intensity. So, again, bad figure, not a horrible figure, just, again, had to be part of my list. Does he deserve to be women's champion now that I've talked about it? And basically putting... I like Ric Flair. Even though I kind of feel like the women's wrestling is better than the men's wrestling nowadays, I'll leave it on him for the simple fact that I want the guys to be belted, and I don't really have any other belts right now that I can put on them. Sorry about that last rant. I didn't really expect to go that deep into that. It just kind of came up. So I do have different variants of the number 8 winner, per se, of this competition. So coming in at number 8 for my least favorite Hasbro figures are Luke and Butch of the Bushwackers. See, I think this is Butch and this is Luke. So overall, appearance-wise, these are beautiful figures. These might actually be among the best aesthetically looking figures of any Hasbro action figure. Now, why does these figures end up on my list of least favorite figures? And it boils down to one simple fact. Well, they're doing it now. I don't know if you can see it, but generally, these clowns do not stand up worth a darn. And it makes me so mad. I display these, obviously, in my glass display case. And, a lot of times you're having to lean them against the glass or lean them against other wrestlers. And every time you open up the display case, they fall over and knock everyone else over. And, I pay a lot of money for the Hasbro figures. These guys are so common. You can find any lot, any seller selling a lot of figures, and, generally, the Bushwhackers, at least one of them will be part of that lot. And, not again, they're not the worst figures, definitely not. And, they'll probably sell as a pair anywhere between $10 to $30 for a pair. But for no other reason, they do find themselves on the top 10 list of least favorite, just for the simple fact that they do not stand up well. The Bushwackers at number 8, and of course, that was Series 2, if I'm not mistaken. And coming in, of course, at Series 10 are the tan camo version. to be honest, I kind of like the original Series 2 version. Color is a little bit better. But because, the tan are a lot more rare and definitely a lot more pricey, again, as a pair, these guys will sell for about $10. And, a high end, maybe you get $30 for them if you're selling them. But these guys right here, I think I lucked out. I got these for about $85, $90. But when I've seen these guys sell for $120, $125, $130, I just think people are just going ridiculous with these now. And I kind of get the same way sometimes. If I'm bidding on something and I have a set price in mind, if I'm bidding on it, it's because I want it. And sometimes I go overboard and keep bidding so I can ensure that I win. And of course, there are times where I'm close to completing my collection and I absolutely need the figure. I might have to go above and beyond. But, do I really want to pay $120, $130 for these guys, for Series 10 Bushwackers? But Bushwackers, again, number 8. Coming at number 7, I don't mind this figure. His counterpart did make the top 10 list of my favorites in the last video, coming at number 10 respectively. This time his original version comes in at number 7, the Big Boss Man. Maybe because he's got the the pot belly there, I don't know. I obviously I like the skinnier Big Boss Man version better. So Potbelly, small head, but other than that, this is a great figure. I really like this one. This is a Series 1 or Series 2, I can never remember. I always get the Series 1 and 2 mixed up, but I want to say Series 1. It's a beautiful Big Boss Man. I love this figure to death. Again, he's on this list for no other reason other than, me needing to find something to fill in. Something like the Bushwackers, those are legitimate, because they don't stand well. Those are legitimate characters or legitimate figures to be on this list. But I think probably half of the figures I have on my list are simply there because I need to fill in the slot with somebody. So, number 7, the Big Boss Man. And of course, awesome accessory. A lot of my accessories I buy from a seller on eBay, Tconn, Tconn, and of course I mentioned Strozzo, Strzzzo, I think it is. They replicate a lot of Hasbro accessories, and they're fairly priced. $10 to $15 for the most part for Shango necklace or a Razor Ramon necklace. The Big Boss Man nightstick, for example. If you wanted to get a original nightstick for, Hasbro, you're paying $30, $40 for it. I'm like, come on, guys, that's ridiculous. Do I want an original, accessory? Of course, but some of the prices out there are just, people are just going overboard. Of course, as a seller myself, I always feel bad, shortchanging other people. They're selling it for a price that they want to get for it. So, if they're selling a nightstick for, $30 on eBay and you want to come in and you're comfortable at $15, that's, and some people, they'll work with you, and normally if they work with me, so if they're selling it for 30 and I offer 15 and they come in at like 22 or something, even if they come down to like 25, I'll be like, okay, you know what, this person's willing to work with me, I appreciate it, and I'll normally pay their new offer. But some guys, they're just sticklers for their set price. So number 6 is a Jim Duggan figure. This one is actually a really good piece. I do not mind Jim Duggan at all. So I really like this one a lot. I mentioned figures that are on this list simply because I need to pick somebody. So you're going to see a lot of Series 1 and a lot of Series 2 figures. As I mentioned, once it hits Series 3, the figures start improving significantly. And again, there's nothing wrong with this one. It's great sculpt, great replication of the face. He's on this list for no other reason than the fact that I have to choose 10. And this one might actually be better than the Big Boss Man, so he might actually deserve to be higher up. But because the Boss Man's closed, I like his outfit, so Duggan just being simply, blue knee pads and trunks, very simple. I do have the series, I want to say Series 10, Jim Duggan USA version, and I also have like a custom which I didn't show. Maybe at some point I'll bring both those up for display purposes. I'll talk to him for a few moments. Number 6, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And the actual hacksaw, it actually says hacksaw on it. Sorry. Nope, I had it right the first time around. It looks backwards on my computer, so I don't know if I bought that from T-Con or Struzzo or if I got that from the seller on Etsy. Now I know the seller on Etsy, David Garland. He has all those stands and some accessories for the LJN figures, but I don't remember if I bought this from him as well. You know what? I may, because I did get the Arrogant spray for my Rick Martel Hasbro. So you know what? I think I did get this one as well. So it's called 4 Left 3D Creations. David Garland, he does have. I did get this. I got a couple different hacksaws. I got a sword for the Berserker. I don't know if the Berserker actually came with the sword, but it looks good in his hand. I got some Arrogant spray bottles from him. And of course, I buy like a million different stands for my LJN figures. I got some for like Ultimate Warrior. What I have? Jake the Snake, Roddy Piper, Demolition, and Killer Beast. So a lot of individual specific wrestlers. He also creates stands for, which they're absolute beauties. If you ever get the opportunity to go on Etsy, definitely give David Garland a look. His products are amazing. And they're fairly priced too, so where are we at? We're at 1097, number 6. No, I feel like we're missing up. Yep, we are. So this is number 5. Yeah, lost count. So, just looking through these, I think I had most of these figures as a kid, most of Series 1 and 2. Jimmy Snuka is one of them. I'm never a huge fan, of course, of the fused legs. I hate that. Mostly because when you put them on a shelf or on a table, they always fall over. Which is odd because I believe the head shrinkers, if not both of them, I think both head shrinkers do have the fused legs too. And the head shrinkers are obviously a whole lot heavier than, let's say, the rockers, for example. And yet, the head shrinkers will never fall over. Yet, guys like, the rockers or Jimmy Snuka, for example, they will fall over like crazy. It drives me nuts. So, between LJN and Hasbro, Jimmy Snuka just does not get any love. Again, I love all the figures from both collections, but as far as having to pick something, these would be among my list of least favorites. The Jimmy Snuka is probably my least favorite LJN figure, and as you could see, he's number 5 on my list of least favorite, LJN or Hasbro figures. So, and this is why I don't like the fused legs. Is I know because he always leaped off the top rope, did all his acrobats. This kind of makes sense for him. It's a great, overall piece display-wise, I guess. And because, I had this as a kid, it's one of those things I can actually, talk about a little bit. Obviously got a lot of play as a 6, 7-year-old, when this, around the time this came out. Well, I think this came out in 1990, so I would have been 5 years old, but I don't think we actually got it in 1990, probably 1992. But anyways, Jimmy Snuka, number 5 on this list. Coming at number 4, overall, another piece that's not really terrible, but with the fused legs, and again, the whole head thing, which I don't like. And another thing, this one actually looks mint. But this right glove is generally always has paint loss on it. The left glove looks like it's pretty minty as well. So that's nice. That again, I get like a million of these guys. Every time I purchase a lot of figures, there's always going to be a Brutus Beefcake in there. There's always going to be a Hacksaw, Jimmy Snuka, Big Boss Man. So Brick Rude, Jake the Snake. Sometimes the Series 1 or Series 2 Bushwhackers. They're usually prominent in those lots as well. And sometimes you'll throw in like a key figure, like a Papa Shango or a Ric Flair or something, to try and make the lot actually worth the money that they're asking. But so I end up with a lot of these. Very few of them actually have mint condition gloves the way that they do, and there's a minuscule paint loss on the boots, so it's not perfectly mint, but close enough. And of course the shears as well. Now, this one did not come from David Garland. This one came from another seller. I'm trying to think. Wrestling Tycoon, I think. I don't know. I've bought a lot of these from Wrestling Tycoon. A lot of these accessories. So I consider myself to be a regular, I guess, purchase as far as buying from them. I haven't bought from them in probably a couple months. Simple fact, I started getting frustrated with the service, and they even say it in their description. Normally like a 5-day turnaround. So I think one of the first things I bought from them was like a Lex Luger Galoob figure. It took like a month from the day I purchased it until the day I actually received it. So 4 or 5 weeks to receive a little 4 or 5 inch figure. Just it was nuts. And of course I buy a lot of these. I buy a lot of the accessories as well, from them. Same thing. It takes about a week for them to finally process it and get it shipped, and then another 3 weeks to a month to actually receive it. So, Wrestling Tycoon, if you want decently priced accessories and you've got patience and you're not in a rush to get them, that might be the route to take if you're interested. So number 3 is going to be a tag team. I'm not going to separate them. I'm going to keep them together. And I'm sure a lot of people would agree. Possibly the worst Hasbro figures of all time. Now these were one of those figures I had that I can remember as a kid. And I always enjoyed them. I didn't sit back and say, what, Shawn Michaels looks terrible, Marty Jannetty looks terrible. I thought they were really good figures. I liked them a lot. And as an adult, obviously seeing the Series 10 Marty Jannetty or the Series 7 or Series 10 Shawn Michaels, they obviously did much better with the singles gear than they did with the original Rockers Tag Team, Hasbro figures. I obviously like the Shawn Michaels figure a little bit better, possibly because of the different way that his hands are sculpted compared to just the plain punch. I think with the way I talked about, wrestling-wise, that Marty Jannetty would be a little bit better. I mean, he does look more like Marty Jannetty than Shawn Michaels looks like himself. But the same issues that I have with so many other figures is that these guys very rarely are capable of standing up on their own. I put them on a display case, one of those, 4-tier steps. So basically you have one on the first step, and then you got the one right behind it, and then the other one behind it. So you can see 3 across, 4 different tiers. Those little stands you fit 12 wrestlers on. Every time I open my display case, these guys are tipping over and hitting the ground. Luckily, they haven't broken yet. And or if I put them behind somebody, they knock those guys over. So they make my list not only because of the fact that they're not the most aesthetically pleasing figures, but because they cannot stand worth a darn, and it drives me nuts. And when I mentioned that there's some figures that I would get rid of because, you really can't do anything with them, I wouldn't do that for the simple fact that I want to have the complete collection. And if I were to start getting rid of figures, I obviously wouldn't be able to make that claim. So I hold on to these for that purpose, but, if I'm ever interested in downgrading figures that don't stand up on their own, they're gone. So this is kind of odd. I don't think I noticed this before. So generally with fused legs figures, you'd have this little hunch in the back. That way you raise the wrestler's head. And this one, oh, there it goes. This one has the fused legs, and same thing. Kind of. Your legs go up. Just like, but nope, actually it doesn't so much go up. The waist actually goes down. Okay, so that makes a little bit difference, I guess. But generally with the fused legs, you'll have that little hunch, and Marginite does not have that. I don't know if other fused legs wrestlers don't have that either. I mean, none that I can recall. Number 3, least favorite Hasbro, the Rockers. So this one would have actually had the potential to be number 1. When I first initially thought of this competition, I was going to list him at number 1. As I pulled the figures off the shelves and kind of looked at them, he initially upgraded one single spot, and that is Roddy Piper. So he's got a good fight pose, the slapping and the punch, good for body slamming. And overall, aesthetically, this is a beautiful figure. And he is on my list for no other reason. No, not because I had to pick somebody. Now, this one is on my list because, again, for that purpose right there. This is probably worse than the Rockers, probably worse than the Bushwackers. This guy cannot stand by himself. You always have to lean him against somebody, and when you do that, what happens? You're knocking him over. And when you actually look at the figure, he does kind of have like this, like it's flat up here, then it kind of curves like a half moon right over here. And I have no clue why Hasbro did that. I mean, that is just a horrible design. Maybe they thought that all these kids were going to have their figures, laid face down, but you want to have your figures be able to stand up. I mean, that's why I absolutely hate, Toy Biz or, Mattel for the most part, Jack Specific. The fact that none of these figures can really stand up, I mean, the way that their joints shift out, that's why I'm not a fan of that articulation junk. As adults who actually collect these for enjoyment, kind of create our own little museum of Hasbro's or a museum of LJNs for nostalgic reasons. We want to be able to display them appropriately, and a figure like this, you can't do anything with it, and it's very frustrating. Great figure, love it, and this is just a character that I actually can remember. Unlike the LJNs, where there's a lot of figures, a lot of people, a lot of wrestlers, I had no idea who they are. Obviously, starting the collection, I've obviously grown and learned a little bit more about them, but had this as a kid, loved Roddy Piper. Even like the appearance, physical aesthetics of the figure. Hate the fact that he can't stand. He moves into spot number 2 as the worst Hasbro, in my opinion. Now, number 1, I don't know why this man does not get any love. I can remember him being a pretty good wrestler, so I don't know why LJ and Hasbro hates him so much. So, number 1 is Ravishing Rick Rude. Now, for whatever reason, Rick Rude has the worst LJN figure of all time. You know, with the hands on the hips type of deal. It's basically an unplayable figure. For an adult collector with the LJNs, yeah, you put on a shelf, it looks good, but that's it. Hasbro did not do him any justice. Now, the purple and black actually looks really nice. You know, I don't mind that at all. Aesthetically, you know, waist down, that is a great look. But then they give him this. This is, to me, is the worst pose you can give any of these wrestlers. So guys like Ric Flair, 1-2-3 Kid, Rick Rude. I'm trying to think who else has this pose, if anyone else. I'm sure there's probably at least one more, maybe. Anyways, but I don't like this. As far as playability goes, Hulk Hogan with Series 2, with with the way that he used to crouch over and thrust his fists together, that pose right there. You know, when you got to pull the arms out and it snaps back in together. That figure actually could have potentially been either a #1 figure on either list. The best figure of all time or the worst figure of all time. Aesthetically, from a display point, yeah, it was a beautiful figure. Could have been a potential #1 best looking figure. But again, because you can't really play with it, it also could have been #1 on the worst figure. But Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, neither figures from any series of those characters appeared on either of these lists. I thought maybe Macho Man Series 1 was a contender. Series 5 Macho Man with the white jacket. I thought about adding him to either list. Yeah, I know when I first saw it, I loved it, but then I just kind of outgrew it, I guess. Especially seeing some of the others. But Rick Rude, poor guy. Worst LJN figure of all time, and now the worst Hasbro figure of all time. I've actually seen the Jakks Pacific Classic Superstars. That's part of the collections that I'm building now. And his figures actually look pretty good. But again, Classic Superstars, I'm more into the box sets that they come in than the actual figures, because that's why I buy them all on card or buy them all in box. I don't really care about any of the Jakks figures by themselves individually, loose figures. So that is it. That is the last two videos, the top 10 least and most favorite figures. Again, today's March 14th. I am not going to post these videos until after I complete my LJN competition. Again, the way I've been shooting through them, I could be done in a week. Could be done towards the end of the month, but these will be put on hiatus in the short term until I'm able to complete that. I just want to thank everyone for watching another really enjoyable video. I really do appreciate your time, and I look forward to starting the next collection with you guys, next tournament. Alright guys, talk to y'all soon. Goodbye for now.